Hi class, Dr. Diaz here. I'm going to talk to you today about week 3, module 3, and go over the assignments that you're going to do, how to do them, and what it all means. So let's go ahead and start. I've got my laptop open with the module 3 folder open, and if you want to pause the video, you can go ahead and go there. I'm going to be going over first the learning objectives. In module 3, you're going to be identifying threats to validity and research, meaning what do you see in any given research example that can threaten the validity, which is also saying how true the study is and how well it represents a population when it uses a sample. So what threats are there? And the second thing is you're going to learn a little bit about SPSS, and you're going to start thinking about research and how to tie SPSS data sets into this. So you're going to get familiar with the software SPSS. So moving past your reading, your required readings that help you immensely understand these concepts, the first thing I want to talk to you about is your SPSS assignment. This is your intro to SPSS. It's very simple and straightforward, and I want to walk you through it just so we are all on the same page together. So I went ahead and opened up the assignment itself. This is called the SPSS Assignment 1 document. Go ahead and click that and it will open. And what I'm going to do is I also opened the rubric. So I'm going to first just talk to you about the assignment, then I'll spend some time and talk to you about the rubric, and that's for grading. So the very first thing is, let's just look at this assignment. I'm in the document itself, and I'm going to go question by question. The first question is, describe a research question that interests you. I recommend that you start thinking about the research that you want to do for this class in 510 and Psych 520, this giant research project. I would begin wanting to have you double dip and try to use your main focus as much as possible. So you're going to describe a research question that you're interested in. Then you're going to state a hypothesis for an experiment that would relate to your research question. That's number 1. So the way I'm going to use an example or make something up for this video, and I'm going to say I'm interested in if students watch YouTube videos from their professor online, does it impact them to do better in the class versus the students who do not watch online YouTube videos their teacher makes? Do they do well or not? That's the research question. The hypothesis is what I think is the outcome will be. So my hypothesis is I hypothesize that students who watch professor videos for their class online do better academically than students who do not watch the videos. So that hypothesis is directly related to my research question. So that's number 1. Number 2, how might you test that hypothesis? You need to describe a procedure that you will use and clearly discuss the independent variables and the dependent variables. So for number 2, my example, my procedure would say I'm going to use the scientific method, and I'm going to have 2 groups of students from the same class. And let's say for this example there's 20 students. 10 are going to watch the YouTube videos their professor makes, and 10 are not going to watch them. And they will each be given the same curriculum and the same assignments and the same papers and the same tests. I'm going to have independent and dependent variables. The dependent variable is their grade that they earn in the class because it's dependent on certain things. The independent variable is going to be the YouTube videos, and my 2 groups are going to be given the same assignment. So I have an independent variable that's influencing a dependent variable. And a nice trick to remember these differences between independent and dependent is the dependent variable depends on something. So if a grade, a letter grade in a class, depends on the videos being watched, it's a dependent variable. The videos themselves are independent of anything. They don't rely on anyone. They don't have a condition. in order for them to work. They're just there on their own. Another example of an independent variable is your height. You are going to be the same height presumably today, tomorrow, and the next, and there's no condition out there that's going to make you shorter or taller the next day. That's an independent variable. Your mood or attitude is a dependent variable, because what if somebody cuts you down, says, and gives you an insult, and that it affects how you feel? Your mood is a dependent variable because it depends on another influence. So sorry I went off on a tangent for number 2, but so the way I would answer number 2 though is I would explain a scientific method in how I would test to see whether or not online videos have an influence on the letter grade students earn in a class. So number 3, it says enter hypothetical data for at least 15 people. You're going to make this up, this data. You first need to create the variables in the variable view. So this means you're working in SPSS at this point. You will then need to enter the data in the data view. Then enter your hypothetical data. Make sure that you name each variable, use a label, and enter the values. So what I would do here is open up SPSS. If you don't understand this point, Google and look up tutorials on how to do this, but it's a very straight through procedure. And if you read your required readings for Module 3, you will see that one of them is a video on an SPSS tutorial on how to enter your data. So we give you the walkthrough in a video on how to do this. So I'm going to create a pretend variable data set, and each variable, so the first variable I may call it ID, and I'm going to name it 1 through 15, each row. The next variable, I'm going to call it video, and I'm going to give it a Y or an N for yes or no, meaning they watched the video or they did not watch the video. The third variable, I could have it called name. Susie, John, Jim, Beverly, each student will get a name, 1 through 15, and so forth. And you can continue to add variables if you want. Age, gender, male or female. And that's how you're going to create that data set. 3b, question 3b. Provide an explanation for each of your variables. More specifically, which variable is the independent variable and which is the dependent variable? How would the variables be measured? How should the values be interpreted? This is another way of saying describe your data to me. And I would really just describe each variable one by one. So in mine, the first one, my first sentence would say ID. This variable indicates an identification for each participant. This is an independent variable because, again, what's going to change someone's ID? Nothing. The next variable is perhaps letter grade, and each person has a letter grade, A through F. That's a dependent variable because it's going, and I want to explain this and say the reason it's a dependent variable is because it's dependent on whether they watched the video or not. The next variable could be gender, and I would say gender indicates whether the participant is male or female, and this is an independent variable. Putting political views and beliefs aside, we in the research field say gender is independent and does not change. So a female is a female and a male is a male in the research world. And that's an independent variable. And so forth. So you see how I am explaining to you every variable in my data set, what kind of it is and why. And that's what you're going to do for 3B. Okay, so that concludes talking about the assignment. Let's look at the grading rubric. Pretty straightforward. When I look at the rubric and grade your work, I want to make sure I see a research question and a hypothesis. And in this part, you have to describe a research question related to psychology and state a hypothesis. For my example, my research question was, does watching YouTube videos by your instructor help you get a better grade versus not? My hypothesis is, watching videos from your instructor online in your online course does help you get better grades. That satisfies the first content rubric content. Number 2, testing the hypothesis. Describes a procedure to test the hypothesis and discusses the independent and dependent variables. In my paper or my assignment, this is a place where I would have talked about the scientific method, 2 groups, control group, test group, giving one group, the test group, the YouTube videos. The control group does not get the YouTube videos. I look at their letter grades at the end of the class and I compare and see, did the YouTube video watchers get better grades than those who did not watch it? And then I talk about my independent and dependent variables. The dependent variable is their letter grade. Their independent variables are their gender, their name, their ID, so forth. Part 3, data entry. Provides data file containing, you need to submit your data file, by the way. Please upload it and submit it with your assignment in our course website. Provides data file containing the hypothetical data. So that's what I explained earlier. I create variables and I create a data set. Number 4, explain the variables. This is that part of my paper or assignment where I take the time and I explain every single variable, whether it's independent or dependent, and how it should be interpreted. So let me give a quick example again. The variable gender is an independent variable, and it is used to identify whether the participant is a male or a female. That's the answer for that variable, and you're going to do that for however many variables you have in your data set. So that's the description of how you will be graded for this assignment. I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. And the last piece for Module 3 is your discussion on validity and reliability. And I have it here, and I want to talk to you. You're going to select one article from the internet or SNHU's library article repository. But you need to find an empirical peer-reviewed article. This is not a magazine, this is not a newspaper, this is from a scholarly journal. Again, I highly encourage you to make sure you're getting an article that is in your research interests, because you're going to use it for your final project. So let's say, in this example, I'm still interested in video watching and letter grade performance. I'm going to go online, maybe to Google Scholar, and I'm going to type some keywords in, like academic performance, video, YouTube. Now let's say I find an article that says, YouTube helping students get better grades. And I read that article. So this is what you're going to do. It says, so once you find that article and read it, highlight one threat, at minimum, highlight one threat to the validity or reliability. So let's say my article I was reading, it said, the people who were part of this study that watched YouTube videos for school, they were all located in New York. It was a study done in New York, and they found out that videos do not work. Well, I could point out that one threat that I realized is that this population was in one state only, and there could be differences in geographic region. Perhaps people in California or Arizona or Florida or maybe geographic region has an impact on this study. So the threat is that they only limited it to New York, and it may be beneficial that they expand this study to more than one state. So it says, explore why this threat is problematic and how it could be remedied. I kind of just explained that. They could remedy this by having this study done in multiple states to see if it's the same across the U.S. It says, comment on the articles discussed by your classmates. So go out and look for 2 other classmates and talk about their articles the same. And it says, consider what validity threats are most common, which are the most difficult to handle. So that's the portion where you're going to talk to your fellow classmates about theirs. And this is going to be the explanation of what to do for the Module 3 discussion. Alright, so that covers Module 3. I hope you all are doing well, and I will see you later. Take care.